I watched most of this episode while looking at my phone doing other things, which seems to be the pattern of my watching of The Walking Dead lately. In the first 4 or 5 seasons, I couldn't look away because it was so exciting, and I just grew up watching the Romero zombie movies, and I was so glad there's Romero zombie movies forever, and it's completely continuing. But, I think sometime after season 5, I forgot the specific point when the show jumped the shark for me. It might have been, I don't even remember. It's been so long, I don't even remember. It might have been when they met the Oceanside people or the Garbage people, or it was probably before that, when they added some, just weird, too many characters and some weird comedy in it. So most of this episode I watched while doing other things because it was just so uninteresting. I didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care what happened to them. I didn't care about the fair. But there were some characters who were intriguing. The Whisperers are intriguing. Alpha is intriguing. The Lydia storyline is very, very intriguing. So that's good. But, even the characters who I love in the book, Ezekiel is great in the book, but I don't care about him on the show. Jesus is great in the book. I didn't care about him on the show. So the episode was just going on. Again, I can half pay attention to it and still know what's happening. Again, didn't care. And then a friend of mine semi-spoiled the show for me. And normally I'd be very angry, but with Walking... I still kind of was angry. But with this, Walking Dead, I don't care that much about the show. I'm like, oh, okay, so I know what they're going to do in this episode because it's based on the book. So I'm going to do some comic book spoilers, too. Now, in the comic book, when this happened, the main heads on the spikes, from what I remember, it was Ezekiel, and Ezekiel was with Michonne, and Michonne was away for a long time. She was on a boat, and that's probably what's going to happen to Denai Guerrera because she's leaving the show. But then I think that's what the story. And then she came back, and then she found that Ezekiel was dead, and Rosita was one of them too. So that was a major thing, along with some other characters, and I don't really remember the other ones, but those were the main ones. So it was whoa. And the good part about this episode was that it did that. It at first had, some minor characters. It's okay, it's this kid, it's Brett Butler from the show Grace Under Fire. So it was great to see. She was Frankie, her character's name was, I think. It was great to see Brett Butler acting again, because I know she had some troubles, but she had a pretty popular show in the 90s, so she was very good on Walking Dead. So that was a character who, you kind of got to know and like. Some of the characters you didn't care about, the Highwaymen were a bunch of red shirts. Who cares that the Highwaymen died? And then you had some just supplemental characters. It's okay. So the big ones, though, you had Tara, and I was never a fan of Tara on the show. And I think they're doing this just to trim the fat a little bit. There are way too many characters. You want to concentrate on the main ones. So Tara was I kind of felt a little happy. I'm oh, yeah, no more Tara, all right. I mean, the actress was good. She was just doing her best with what was provided. So nothing against Alana Masters. That's Alana Masterson, yes, who played her. Nothing. It's the writing that wasn't good. And then Enid was a shock. And again, Enid was one of those characters when she got on the show. It was interesting. When Enid was first on the show, I thought she was going to be from the Whisperers. I thought she was going to be the Lydia because she had the relationship with Carl. In the book, Carl is still alive, and he has I think it's the relationship with Lydia. And the book just fleshes out pardon the pun, fleshes out the characters so much better. So, So when Enid was oh, Enid, all right, whoa. And then you got to Henry. I'm oh, whoa, okay, because I thought Henry was going to be the Carl replacement. So Judith most likely will be the Carl replacement. I don't like the direction they're going with Judith. I don't find that she's a typical child. And that's not to say children don't behave like Judith. Maybe there are. The way she's written, and again, the actress is good. The way that Judith is written just seems way too smart for an 8 or 9 year old. And again, there might be smart 8 or 9-year-olds out there, but if there are, it's got to be very rare because I don't know of any, or I haven't read about any. If anyone knows like an 8 or 9-year-old as smart as Judith who can, figure out Negan and negotiate with Negan and just very, very much adult. So I hope... And I like that there's a Judith, because in the book, she died. In the book, as a baby, she was killed with Laurie. It was a terrifying scene. So I want Judith to be on the show, because I want to see the child's perspective of growing up in this world. As a child, this is the only world Judith knows. So I guess maybe a justification for Judith being so smart is it's the kind of world this is now, and you gotta grow up fast. Maybe. But then all the other kids would probably act like Judith too, so... But I hope the character just takes a little bit of a turn, like have the kid be a kid. And kill Jerry. Jerry is just so annoying. It's just not funny. It's annoying. That was a terrible comedy bit at the beginning with the fair and the name. It's just, you're not endearing me to these characters. God damn you, Walking Dead. So anyway, Enid, and then Henry. So it was one of those episodes where I was like, ooh, finally at the end, because I knew it was coming, because my friend basically spoiled it. I was like, all right. So that in itself was good. Carol is such a tragic character. One of the best, probably the best episodes of The Walking Dead was like the flowers episode, where she has the kids look at the young girl look at the flower, and Carol killed the girl, which was so disturbing. And then the Sophia episode, where it shows the children dying. And I find that interesting, because the episode of The Walking Dead where Michonne had to kill the children, I wasn't as disturbed by it, because I don't think I was that invested in the characters. Now, I'm disturbed by children dying, even fictional children, don't get me wrong. It's still, I understand the dramatic weight to it, but there was just something missing with that, where it was like, all right, cool. I mean, not cool, but whatever. I'm just not invested, so regardless of what happens, it's like, oh, that's terrible, but I don't care about these characters. So, ending was well done. The very ending, though, with the Siddiq speech, so cheesy. Walking Dead has some really cheesy moments, and this was like Hollywood win one for the Gipper kind of rah-rah speech, where it's like, we fought, and they fought until the end. It's just so cliche and so predictable, and again, just cheesy. So, every show is going to have the big bad guy to face, especially with Walking Dead. It kind of becomes formulaic. This is the person they face because there's going to be a war, and they do this, and then through that, the characters develop. So I don't mind about that. The Whisperers, though, bring on a new dynamic for a villain. Alpha is just a very interesting character as far as trying to suppress the emotion, and it's such a dictatorship she's under. So with the fact that she's not free to do anything either, because God forbid she shows emotion, she can be taken over. It's that whole myth of the alpha thing that they're trying to do with humans, because that whole thing with alpha males and wolves was a myth. So they're trying to do that with humans. So I get what the show's trying to do, trying to show dominance and all that, But, in a just and fair and successful society, everybody contributes their strengths. And everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. And, you make up for one another, because we're all in this together. But, yeah, it'd be terrible to live under Alpha. But it's good, the relationship between Alpha and Beta, and to see where that's going. I kind of know where it's going, and I liked it in the book, so we'll see, how far it strays from that. So, special effects were great. It kind of reminds me of Day of the Dead. Like Greg Nicotero, spoiler for Day of the Dead, the 1985 George Romero classic. Greg Nicotero was very, very young. One of the first movies he's worked on as a special effects artist. And he had a role in the movie too, and there was a part where he gets his head chopped off, and the head is, it's a animatronic head of Greg Nicotero, and you see the mouth moving. Now, I don't know if these heads were animatronic. They looked like they were, but they looked great, and you still saw the mouths moving, so just very disturbing visual. So it'll be cool to see where they go next, especially with Michonne leaving. It's just, it's going to be like a Carol and Daryl show, which is fine. Like, I like these characters, so... And I think that's probably why Ezekiel's still alive, because you need another character to kind of ground Carol. And, it's a character that we know because they're all just dying. They got to build up new characters because the show is at the point where it's like most of the original characters are leaving. You got to get to know the new ones already, especially with Tara. She was there for a while. She's gone. Eugene is just intolerable, so I'm glad he's just not on the show that much. Talk about not being, talk about Judith not being a real kid. Or descriptive of a real life child. I don't know anybody who even acts like a Eugene or talks like a Eugene. Again, I consider myself pretty well read. If there's someone who's like a Eugene out there, please let me know. I can't relate to the character at all. I don't like the character at all. It's just, he's annoying to have him on the screen. And again, it's nothing against the actor. He's just using what was written in the script and the character maybe he developed, or the showrunners and the directors developed. So not a fan of that either. So, and I haven't really been a fan of Walking Dead this season for a while. There have been some great episodes. I think it was the season premiere of this season that I really liked, when they were in, it seems like 10,000 years ago, like when they were in Washington D.C. and they took Rick was still alive. So that was good, but it's more misses than hits. So hopefully they'll get on the right track, and, whatever. It's a zombie thing, and it's stale. It's for the most part stale. I'll stick with it. I don't know why. I guess I do. I don't know. It's on in the background. It's good noise. But maybe it'll get promoted to a non-background show. We'll see. Sure. All right. Great. Anyway, and I forgot to do the plugs. So here they are. Plugs in, I'm not doing this on the same day I did the podcast, because it's 3 a.m. My goodness, why do I go to bed so late? So here are the plugs real quick. I'm on Twitter at MMAM Podcast, on Facebook at MMAM Podcast, and you can email me at mmampodcast@gmail.com. So until next time, everybody, have a good one. Bye.